Welcome to this week's edition of Face to Face, right? Here on the channel, right? TraXX FM, right? So let's first of all welcome our guests today into the studios of TraXX FM. I have with me Namesh Balakrishnan, Revenue Executive of the Corporate Service Department of the Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, otherwise known as LHDN. Now, sometimes, of course, when we hear of LHDN, it is, we've got certain images that conjure, right? Sometimes, unfortunately, the feeling is fear, right, Namesh?
Right.
So today, we're going to alleviate those fears. We're going to actually check in with you for some details on how to be better prepared for taxes, okay? So let's talk about that, real quick, right? So once every year, roughly, yeah. So everybody in Malaysia has to fulfill their duty as a responsible citizen, just like any other country around the world, right, by paying taxes, right, or filing for taxes, okay? So let's talk about that. Who is required by law to pay the taxes? Is it everybody who is generating income? Let us know. And of course, why is it important to pay taxes on time?
Okay, a very good morning to the DJ and dear audience. So, referring to the question that is everybody going to pay the tax? So, as long as revenue is generated, so you will be paying taxes. All right, so it could be a business, it could be a salary, or it could be any sort of commission income that is earned.
Right. Basically, that's it, in a nutshell.
Yes, in a nutshell, yes.
Okay. So now, why is it important to pay taxes, and what happens when one doesn't pay taxes?
Okay, it's two ways to look at it, right?
Okay.
So when you say that, why do we need to pay taxes? Now, as we live in Malaysia, we are citizens who are enjoying the amenities and facilities. So as we know that government basically collects the taxes and redistributes this into the economic growth. So by having taxes collected, they can actually prepare amenities like schools, hospitals, roads, all those facilities that are used by the people for generating the income again. So that is why we actually have this revenue board, whereby when you earn, you actually re-contribute to the country by paying taxes. So when that taxes comes back to the government, then that's tabled in the budget, and it's allocated to certain ministries to boom the sectors that is requiring, which comes back to the people. So it's redistributed by economic growth. Yes.
Yeah. So it's in a nutshell, right? Sometimes we just have to remind ourselves of the perspective two things, isn't it? So even though we live in a democracy,
Right.
largely, right, and officially that's what we are in, right? So it is still under democratic ways of living. You can say that everybody still has to contribute,
True.
right, to public facilities, to facilities that require additional assistance, for example, right? Talk about welfare department and so on and so forth. So we all basically do our part in contributing towards the nation overall when we pay taxes, right? So that's why it's super important. Now, zooming into this year's budget, which was of course unveiled last year, right? Budget 2022, there were many tax reliefs that were announced, right? Because again, to tie us over the 2021 pandemic period, of which things were really topsy-turvy, coming from a very challenging 2020 already. So share with us again, remind us, what were the incentives, the reliefs that were announced, right? What is attractive overall for taxpayers, and in a way, how can all taxpayers take advantage of these?
Okay. So this is, I think, most probably the question where everyone's going to be all ears, right? So reliefs, when you talk about tax reliefs, right, as we file our taxes, there's a sort of a rebate or give back that the Inland Revenue Board encourages, whereby when you pay taxes, you can actually exercise the tax relief. So in budget 2022, some of the reliefs were revised. So I will go into some of what were the highlights.
Yes,
right?
please. Yep.
So for example, like when I say medical claims, right? So everybody is going through a pandemic. So you have sickness and you need to get some drugs, medication and all those. So what happens is that every expense that you spend can be accounted to, but receipts has to be retained. So let's say like for medical, we had 6,000 ringgit relief on the taxes, whereby we allocated 5,500 for medical and 500 was given specifically for medical checkups for annually. So what they did was they add on another 2,000 ringgit due to the pandemic, because we take into account also the expenses that was caused due to medical examination, the PCR testing, and then there was this COVID detection tools that was bought, to get the self-detection test kits for the spouses, for the kids, and including the individual themselves. So that is on the medical side. Now, if you look into the other expenses, would be more on the lifestyle, whereby initially there was only about 2,500 given as an expense for purchasing of goods for like books, personal computer, tablets, all those digital jump starts that the kids needed to use, school-going kids, college kids, as well as parents who had to work from home. So that we are adapting into the working from home culture. So that expenses was taken into account, and they added on another 2,500 for that purchasing. So this adds up to about 5,000 relief. Okay, and besides that, one of the very significant ones is also where childcare was concerned. They raised it to 3,000 ringgit. So because we know that the childcare centers were closed at times due to these cases coming up and down. So due to the movement control order as well. So parents had to take turns, go to the office, and some had to, tell the spouses to take care of the kids. So they also given the rebate of 3,000 ringgit, because household, expenses also increase due to they sticking around at home. Yeah, so those were some of the highlights that you might want to know.
Yeah.
As a taxpayer.
Right now, where can people go to get the official info, like in the table and all that, just to put it into clearer perspective as they're filing the taxes, as they're preparing to file their taxes?
Okay, if you want to be very crystal clear about what exactly is granted to you, so you want to exercise your rights of claiming the tax relief, you can log on to our website. Our official website is at www.hasil.gov.my.
Okay. All right. So do that. You get all the relevant tabs, and then, of course, a lot of PDFs, right? Based on my experience as well, that you can, if you like, of course, you can just save it on your tablet or whatever screen. You can even print it out. If that's
By all means, yes.
Some people like to do that. They like a hard copy reference, to all this key information, yeah? So we're going to take a very short breaker. Okay, I'm going to just basically get Namesh to in the case to just take a short little breather, right? And when we come back, of course, we're going to find out more details about, of course, the tax payable for 2021 that's due this year. Get into some more details about the documents, forms that you will need as well, especially if you're a first-time taxpayer, right? Many people are getting right into the workforce as well, just starting out in their careers and so on. So back in a bit right here on Face to Face. Stay tuned. Welcome back to Face right here on TraXX FM's TraXX Momentum. My name is Kong Yu for the edition dated Thursday, March 17th, 2022. Talking to the revenue executive from the Corporate Service Department of the Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, right? I've with Namesh Balakrishnan in the studios talking about taxes, why it's important for us to be responsible citizens in terms of filing and paying up in the case of where there are taxes due. And we also spoke about where we can get information basically on the various tax reliefs that were officially announced, right, for the year 2021, due 2022 taxes per se. Yeah? The only thing is I've noticed here, Namesh, that recently, just like other not so clear cuts, shall we say, attempts by people, scammers and so on, right? Nowadays, we also have reports of scammers posing as tax authorities. Specifically, as recently, I think in the past few weeks, I've gotten one call myself. Automatic voice calls, right? So you pick it up, it's actually someone's recorded voice telling people that they're outstanding tax payment and so on. What is your reaction to this? These are all scams, right? And how should people actually respond, if they should respond at all?
Okay, first of all, not many of us are IT savvy or Inspector Gadget when it comes to mobile phones. So we know that we just came from the transition of buttons to slide phones and touchscreen.
Touchscreens, yeah.
So what happened is that people they adapt very quickly. They try to download applications. So through applications and even using the Google, what happens is that our personal particulars and information is disseminated. So we basically don't know who are reaching out to us. So when you receive a call such as that, what you have to do, first of all, don't panic. If you decide not to take because it's a foreign number, just ignore it. But if, let's say, you've already attempted to take it, probably you're waiting for a call or job interview, you had to take the call, you press the button, okay? First of all, don't panic. Hear them out, what they are trying to say to you. If, let's say, you feel that they are requesting information, personal information such as like your address, your ID, your last 4 digits of IC number, or even your banking account, do not reveal that to them because we do not know who's on the other side of the phone. So the second thing you can do is you can block the number, you can take a screenshot of the number, then you can proceed or lodge a report to us at to the customer care officer by logging on to our official website, hasil.gov.my. Then what you can do is that you can check through your ledger itself, you'll know which branch of income taxpayer you are. Get in touch with the customer care officer through mobile, or you can even email them. Report it to us, and we will take the action towards the scammer.
Okay, here's the thing though. I mean, will Hasil or the Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia, will the personnel actually go through a automated voice call at all? Because like if once we hear that message, it is a pre-recorded message claiming to be from the Inland Revenue Board, right? Should we just hang up straight away? There might be an easiest way to handle this potential scam, right?
Okay, let's look at it this way. I mean, being straightforward, right? If let's say you receive the call and you feel that it could be IRBM officer, you can just cancel the call, call us on the official line, mention the name or identity of the person who called you, then probably you can get through. Because as far as we are concerned, we never had done an automated call,
right?
And we don't request you to press any button at all.
That's right, yeah.
Because that button could be linked to another interface where it authorizes a transfer of money.
Right, potentially. So bottom line, that's the best thing to do. Just call Hasil direct.
Get back to us, to the source.
Right. Get back to the source, yeah? So that's a important segue, but I just want to get that out of the way because it's something that's happening more and more.
Very rampant, yes.
That's right, very rampant these days, yeah? Now, getting back on paying taxes and filing for taxes, okay, let's walk through. Now, what documents are needed, the different forms and all that, and also for different categories, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, share with us.
Okay, so today basically we're talking more on the individual side. So when you talk individual, we got 2 types of forms. One is the B and one more is the BE. So when you say BE is from the non-business income for individuals who have monthly tax deductions on their pay slips. So you're already eligible to pay tax. So the other side will be the ones who are in the B form, which they actually contribute through their business income. So their deduction will be called CP500. So they'll be paying a certain amount or leverage of that in every alternate months. So once these taxes are collected, we do taxes in Malaysia in an accrued basis. So we deduct first, then the following year you actually declare. So when it comes to declaration of the forms, right, you just have to know that you had spent the amount and you have the receipts with you, and it has to remain with you for at least 7 years. Because if we don't want to catch you doing claims that you do not incur, and then later on when it's audited, there will be stringent action taken on you.
Right. Now, of course, a very popular, I'm sure you get this frequently asked question to you, right? What if the receipts fade? Because nowadays, I mean, my personal experience, right, when it comes to parking receipts and things like that, they actually fade within months. So what should we do?
Okay, I can't agree more with you on that because we know those the papers that they use right now, the receipts, they fade off or they black out.
That's right.
So the best way is we got our gadgets with us all the time, We can forget our spouses, but we don't forget our mobile phones, right? So what you can do, you can basically scan or snapshot of the receipts. You can save them into any interface that you would like. So when the time comes, you know that this is crucial that you want to claim. So you know confidently that the receipts are with you,
right,
so that you can put up your tax reliefs and confidently walk free. Otherwise, when the audit comes with you, you can't produce any documents, then we have to add back and it comes out as an additional tax plus a penalty for you.
Okay, very important. I always have to keep this note to myself because I know unfortunately I'm sure I have some faded ones already.
Right.
Right. So nowadays snapshot, and I guess you get used to it, isn't it? I mean, from my own, just sharing my own personal experience, you know that a type of receipt and a type of print normally will fade.
Right.
So in that case, remember, note to self and to reminder to all listeners out there, remember to take a snapshot lah.
Right.
Just take a soft copy. At least you have some backup there as well. Yeah. Speaking of soft copy, nowadays of course it's so much more convenient. You don't have to file a hard copy form anymore, which we had to do even 5+ years ago, right?
True.
Right thereabout. So, what actually are the available channels, mediums that we can pay our taxes?
Okay, talking about payment, right? Payment only comes out once you declare your taxes, taking into account PCB if it's a BE form, and taking into account a CP 500 if it's a B form. So now once you go into our My Tax interface or the hasil.gov.my, it will redirect you to a portal called My Tax. That's our latest, I would say, innovation. Okay, so once you log on to that, there are 3 ways of paying it. So the basic and very common one is called Baya Hasil. Technically, that is our term for FPX. Okay, so you will be doing an EFT, electronic fund transfer, whereby the Baya Hasil will direct you to an online banking. So you can select your preferred bank, and then from there they will request a few important information such as your ID info, your payment info, and your bank information. So once you have clicked in those, you can just click and pay. But if let's say you have already an overpaid tax, and your tax reliefs have been already stated there, so you will have an overpaid tax, so that you do not have to actively do a payment because it will be deducted from your monthly tax deduction already. So probably you enjoy a refund because of that.
Right, most likely, right? Let's take a step backward, just to clarify, right? So the way people can file their taxes, the different forms, different ways they can submit that form.
Okay.
Right.
If you log into our My Tax, there's a portal called Easy Hasil, EZHASIL. So once you log into that, you just have to select the year of assessment and also the type of forms. So make sure when you scroll down your mouse, you select and then you tap. Don't scroll down happily and go to the wrong form, because if you file in a wrong form, there is also a violation there. So there could be a penalty for that. So we want to make sure that you select the right forms, the right year of assessment, and most importantly, have your EA, your annual income statement, next to you, because you don't want to miss out the digits. You don't want to add on your cents inside, because we always round up to the 2 decimal places is not there.
Right.
So you don't include your cents.
Yep.
So you just round up. So you put in your information, and you can double check on if you have a PCB amount or MTD amount. You can check what is in the EA to what is already filled up to you by your employer in your digital forms.
Okay, so that's the easiest, most convenient way. But of course, then there will be people who say that not everybody has access, to a smartphone or to a computer, and widely. So it goes through the traditional manual form as well, even though that does take more time.
True.
And you got to plan for the delivery and things like that for it to arrive at the relevant office, shall we say. Yeah. Okay, now you talked about this, right? Penalties. Right, even filing a wrong form could result in a penalty, right? But what happens when people fail to file and or pay taxes?
Okay, most of us have this stereotype that once the MTD is deducted from our salary, I paid my tax. Now that's a very wrong assumption, because the word is declare. If you do not declare, we do not know what are the expenses you are accounted for and what you've incurred. So by not filing the taxes, your reliefs are not even taken off. So you'll be actually paying more taxes than you should. Or probably you could even enjoy a refund because you've done the expenses. So what happens is, if let's say you don't do that, you don't file your taxes, so basically we don't know that you have already submitted your taxes. If you don't submit your form, it is not, you have not declared. So we cannot do the assessment. When the assessment is not done, you have not paid the tax. So monthly tax deduction doesn't mean that payment has been made. But declaration is the part that when you get the forms with you, not the draft, you got the forms printed out or it's been saved into a PDF format, you know that there is an acknowledgement receipt of that particular year that the tax form has been submitted.
Okay, and what happens when someone does not submit on time for the year, and also and perhaps maybe based on that, of course, you can't actually pay the taxes. Even let's say you've a monthly deduction, but some people actually have no monthly deduction and they are violated by not filing or paying. So what's the penalty there?
Okay, if let's say they have not filed their taxes and there's a penalty, right? What happens is that, could you repeat that again? Sorry.
Okay, what happens when a person doesn't file the tax
At all.
at all for that year?
Okay, what happens is that they will, income tax, IRBM
That's
will
right.
actually find you where they send you a notice asking you to file in, and they submit a form to you to fill up to come over and declare the taxes. If let's say you had done the taxes before, you have paid and declared before, but that following year you did not do so, there will be an estimated tax assessment done on you where you will have to oblige to that. So that's the outcome.
Okay, and then for a person who has filed but has not paid any balance of taxes?
Okay, if let's say you filed and you've not paid, basically that will fall on the category that there's no contribution done before, right? There will be penalty on that. It will go with a notice first, then it will go to a section 104 where we do a travel ban, and that doesn't work, it goes to the court action.
Okay.
Eventually, yes.
All right, just wanted to clear that up so that people know some possible repercussions
Right.
if they have not done their taxes properly. Yeah, and one important one as we get ready to close up the interview, right? Can you remind us, share with us the deadlines for filing for this year?
Okay, when you say deadlines, right, I have to plug a point that you mentioned earlier.
Okay.
You mentioned that people would love to, like let's say they don't go online, they would want to file the physical forms.
Physical form. Yeah.
We really don't encourage physical forms
Okay.
because one could be that you cannot retain the document for your further usage on other financial needs. And if let's say you've done online, then you can keep track of it and download, right? So it's good to do it online actually.
Okay. Right. And what is this year's deadline for filing for 2021?
So let's say it's a manual form, right?
Yep.
You can submit it up to the 30th of April. This is for the BE form, the
form.
individual form for salary income group.
Yep.
So if let's say you're going to do it online, we extend it up to the 15th of May 2022. That's the last day.
Okay.
Beyond that, penalty starts.
Okay. Right. And for those who are filing the B form, it would be the usual deadline,
The 30th of June.
30th
Yes.
of June, and also an extension of 15 days for the online.
That, unless announced.
Okay, so that one we're still waiting for some confirmation there.
Yes.
Okay, so otherwise you assume that it's 30th of June.
Correct.
Okay, all right, good reminders there, deadlines. Very important. And because the Inland Revenue Board has been flexible in this past couple of years due to the topsy-turviness of the pandemic,
Right.
and all sorts of chaos when it comes to payments and things like that. So wonderful, right? Thank you so much for coming in, sharing so succinctly and also eloquently on what we need to prepare for, what key reminders for all taxpayers out there, right? Where can taxpayers generally go to get more information? Obviously, the IRB website, right?
Definitely, you can log on to www.hasil.gov.my. And for those gadgety people, we have our new MyTax platform.
Nice.
You can actually go to Google Play Store. You can download our app, even on iOS App Store and also Huawei Apps Gallery.
Nice. So that's will be basically the tax app, lah.
Yeah, but it's free. It's totally free.
Correct. Yes.
No charges.
Right. That would be the best way to actually do it. Yeah. Well, wonderful. Any final information, key reminders to share before we wrap up?
Okay, all I would like to say is that taxes are vital. You have to pay taxes. We cannot abstain from it because it is for our economic growth. Whatever taxes that is collected will be redistributed to the people. The amenities will improve. So if you want to continue to enjoy a very sustainable growth in economy and even in your lifestyle, then file your taxes on time, file it to the right source. Don't go for the scammers. Whatever it is, we are always there ready to help. Our Hasil Care Line is also there. We also have our website. You can complain, you can lodge a report. So whatever it is, come back to the source. Don't buy stories from the other people.
Yeah.
That's what I would like to say.
Okay, good key reminders there, and thank you so much for coming in. Namesh Balakrishnan, ladies and gentlemen, Revenue Executive Corporate Service Department of the Inland Revenue Board of Malaysia. Thank you, Ramesh.
Thanks a lot.
Right, and thank you so much for tuning in and for joining us on Facebook. Those of you who have done that, quick little shout out here to Samuel, Peter, Patricia Lim, and Saro Gini for your little hellos and so on our Facebook live feed. Yeah, appreciate it. That's a wrap for this week's edition of Face to Face. Lots more to come on Momentum. I'll be with you all the way till 2 p.m. So keep it tuned and locked right here on TraXX FM.